أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيد المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم إلى قيامة يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، يا غريب كربلاء، رزقنا الله في الدنيا زيارتكم وشفاعتكم في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه وقرآنه المجيد وقوله الحق: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين يتبعون الرسول النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم التوراة والإنجيل يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من يصلي على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our discussions have now entered their 7th night. They are past the halfway point of total number of majalis conducting together, inshallah. Last night, we started the discussion on nubuwwah, prophethood. And we answered a few fundamental questions. Why exactly did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose this system and not some other system? Namely, we went through, why doesn't he use angels just to directly communicate with me? And at the same time, we also looked at, why doesn't he just talk to me directly? Why doesn't he send a book completed by a ladder or a string or an Amazon drone? We also looked at, why doesn't he just make a wadih sign, accessible, clear sign, such as on the moon or on a mountain? We looked at all of these different possibilities, and we came to the conclusion: trust how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided to communicate to us and who he has decided to communicate with. Having said all of that, tonight will be the final night where we discuss nubuwwah, this usul al-din, or this asl of deen. Tomorrow we will start our discussion on imama. Today I want to direct the discussion towards the question of how exactly am I supposed to know whether a prophet is real or not, whether the message is real, whether this is an actual prophet. We find that there are other religions. We read the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alladhina amanu walladhina hadu wal-nasara was-sabi'in. This group called the Sabi'in, there are many who believe that this is a present-day group south of Iran and Iraq, known as the Manda'iyya. right? Or the Mandeans. Hopefully I'm not pronouncing it or butchering it wrong, right? This is what happens when all you do is just read all of your research instead of actually being able to talk to people. Interestingly enough, I actually did meet one of these people, but I never asked them, how do you pronounce the name of your religion? And this was back in my university days. And this was the first time that I had even heard of their religion. And so when I heard about some of the beliefs that they had, I was quite shocked. Namely, they do not accept all of the Judeo-Christian Islamic prophets. For example, they accept Adam alayhi salam, they accept Habil, who is not necessarily a prophet in our eyes, but a good person. So they will accept him as one of the prophets. Afterwards, they will accept Sheeth, accept the son of Sheeth, they will accept Nuh alayhi salam, they will accept Shem, also known as Sam, the forefather of the Arab and Jewish and many other nearby ethnicities, right? These are the Samawi ethnicities, right? The languages are also called al-Lughat al-Samawi, right? These Semitic languages all come back to Sam. Sam is someone who is accepted in this religion known as Mandaeanism. But that's pretty much where the commonalities end. Right? There's one more prophet who they consider their Khatim al-Anbiya, who is the greatest of their prophets, and that is John the Baptist, Yahya alayhi salam. This is their greatest prophet. You ask them, do you believe in Ibrahim alayhi salam? No, we do not believe in Ibrahim. You ask them, do you believe in Musa alayhi salam? No, we do not believe in Musa. Do you believe in Isa alayhi salam? No, we do not believe in Isa alayhi salam. And of course, if they believe that Yahya is the final messenger, do they believe in Rasulullah? No, they do not. So, how do we as Muslims categorize and define who is a true prophet and who is not? First and foremost, we look to previous correct and truthful prophets, the likes of Adam, Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, and see, did they foretell another prophet? There are many sects today, by the way, some of them who have become their own religions, who believe that, yes, the Quran is the book of God. And so when Surah Al-Ahzab says that Rasulullah is Khatim al-Nabiyyin, he is the final prophet, some of them look at this ayah and they say, well, we believe that it's not pronounced Khatim, it's pronounced with a fatha, Khatam. Okay, well, what does that change? It changes it from being the final prophet to being the ring, Khatam, Khataman al-Nabiyyin, ring of the prophet. They say that yes, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Let's have another lot of students. They say that yes, he was a prophet, he was a messenger, he was the best of the prophets, he was the leader of all the prophets, but it doesn't mean that he is the end of the prophets. So what do you mean, Khatam? They say that ring meaning adornment. How do we respond to this? We say that, look, in the Arabic language, this is very awkward. There are ways to go and say that this is the best, this is the, for example, crowning achievement. He is the crown jewel. But to go and say that he's the ring in, Fusha al-Arabiya al-Qadima, this is very awkward. This is not how it works. Right? So first and foremost, we say that, look, from a linguistic perspective, put this to the side, this doesn't work. Second of all, this is not one of the accepted readings. If we even accept that there are readings, which historically, because of the hadith of Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he was asked about these various qira'at and of the Quran, these various readings, right? You find, Hafs an Asim, you find Warsh and Qalun, these different readings, right? They came and asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and they said, the other schools of thought, they're saying that Rasulullah is the one who taught them how to read like this. Is this true? He says, كَذَبَ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ. The enemies of Allah have lied. Al-Quran wahid min ind al-wahid. The Quran is one from the one. There's none of this nonsense about other readings. And really, when you look at it, you actually do studies, and there have been a few lectures that have been done in the previous couple of years from a couple of our friends, looking into these different readings and qira'at. Some of these differences within the words, they are benign. Others, they completely change the meaning. Others, they have grammatical errors. So we ask those who accept these readings, do you accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made grammatical mistakes? He doesn't know how to speak Arabic? Right? That one who we read in Surah Al-Rahman, Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran, Khalaq al-Insan, Allamahu al-Bayan. He's the one who taught us how to speak, and now we're going to go and correct his grammar? Gosh, this does not make sense. So we ask, what exactly do you mean by khatam? Where did you get this? They say, okay, well, maybe it's one of the accepted readings. Even then, this isn't found in any one of the readings. But when you go and pay some Arabic linguist to go and tell the masses that no, it is an accepted reading, then you can go and start your own sect. You can go and start your own religion. Such as, for example, the 1800s. This man who became known as the Bab. Right? This is what would eventually become known as Babism. Eventually, first and foremost, he started off the claim that he is the Bab. What does Bab mean in Arabic? Door. The door to who? He called himself and presented himself as the door to Sahib al-Zaman, Imam al-Mahdi, the 12th Imam. And what did he say? He said that if you want to come to the Imam, you come through me. Eventually, his claims became more and more egregious, and he eventually split off, and they have their own system. Following from that, a couple of decades later, came a man by the name of Baha'u'llah. And from this came the Baha'i faith, who initially they believed in the Quran, and they made such arguments of khatam, not khatim. By the way, even if we want to look at this linguistically, just as an aside, why was the ring called a khatam? Khatim, right, the actual word, is what you do, let's say, for example, when you're finished cooking, there's nothing left to do except, for example, to go and put the lid on the pot. For those of us, I don't know why I'm looking at this side. Well, inshallah, this side of the room too cooks. I alhamdulillah, I can attest, I don't burn the house every single time that I cook. Whenever we cook, like for example, the biryani, there's nothing left, even after the food dye and coloring, except for the lid. This lid you would go and call the khatim. This is the finality. Not that it's complete, but this means that there is nothing more that needs to be added. Whether you're cooking a quarter pot, half pot, full pot, whatever it is, it's finished. There's nothing more that needs to be added. No more ingredients, no more mirch and masala. Once it's done, this is to signify that it's done. So why is khatim called that? Because when you seal a letter, you may not use the full entire page of the letter, but when you're done, how do you make sure that the recipient knows it's from you? You seal it. A lot of times when, in those olden days, kings, even our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a ring that he would use to stamp on the letter to show that this is a bona fide letter, has not been opened. This seal, called the khatim, or the khatim. That ring that was used as the signet ring to stamp the seal on top of the letter would be known as the khatam. So even if we want to use this analogy of the ring, where did the analogy of the ring even get the name of khatam for you to be able to bring such an argument? From the same argument, from the same base argument that we're saying. And so it comes to support our argument at the end of the day anyway. Nevertheless, we come back to Babism and Baha'ism. Bab came and he started making prophecies that there's going to be another prophet, etc., etc. Baha'u'llah now comes and he takes advantage of these prophecies and he says, I am that prophet that the Bab was talking about. And you'll find even some celebrities today in Hollywood accept this faith. and they don't really necessarily have any attachment today towards the Quran, but this is where they initially came from. These few sects that eventually became offshoots advocated for modern day prophets. Do we see this in terms of sects that still consider themselves Muslims? Yes, the Ahmadis. Around that same time in the 1800s period, this time not in Persia, but in India, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, he came forward and he said that, no, this verse, it says that Khatim al-Nabiyyin, fine, he is the final prophet, but that doesn't mean that he's the final messenger. He's not the final Rasul. And so I am, fine, not a Nabi, but I am another Rasul. Right? And then there were different sects even within Ahmadiyya and their beliefs. I personally am not too sure whether he claimed to be Isa alayhi salam, his second coming, the Mahdi, another prophet, all of them combined. That is not so clear, and so we'll leave that off to the side. Regardless, they still consider themselves Muslims. They accept the Quran, or some writings of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and they advocate that they are part of Islam. We, Shias as well as Sunnis, eventually started to debate. Now, not all of them are even open to debate today. There are some very strict sanctions on debating within those sects today. We came, and even the Ahlul Sunnah acknowledged that it was the Shias who actually cogently and coherently put together the argument that you need to be a Nabi first and then you become a Rasul. Prior to this, apparently, it was not hashed out that you need to be a Nabi first and then a Rasul. And if it was in the Hadith, it was not that well, spread out in the community. So these various sects, other religions, try to use this ayah. We asked the question, is there another ayah that we could possibly bring? Because look, we started this discussion with, how do you tell that a messenger is real? And we're going to get to, inshallah, in the course of this presentation, some of the prophecies in the current day Bible that we find for our prophet, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Until then, how do we tell? So, is there another ayah that we can bring besides the ayah of Surah Al-Ahzab? Say yes. At the very outset of Surah Al-Baqarah. Let's read. Right? I think everybody knows that small decorative page at the very beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, right? What does it say? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alif Lam Mim. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك. These mu'minun, the ones who the Quran is going to be a real help for, they believe in whatever we have sent down to you. Who is the you? Rasulullah. الذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك, and what was sent before you. What is conspicuously missing? After. There is no mention of anything to come after Rasulullah in terms of wahi, in terms of a new book, in terms of a prophet or a messenger. So we didn't really need to go far. We just, right after the Fatiha and what ayah number 4 it was, Surah Al-Baqarah, I think it is, yes? We already have something else that we can use, and we don't need to go far. There's many other proofs to show that there are no other prophets that we are expecting. What about from the hadith? I'll cite one hadith because we have a lot to get through, and I don't want to take time. Inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. From the hadith, for example, at Tabuk, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi is leaving Imam Ali alayhi salam behind, he says, Ya Ali, I need someone to go and look after Medina and to keep the city going, the government affairs going. At this point, Rasulullah is head of state. Imam Ali alayhi salam, it seems he has not been far away from Rasulullah ever in his life before. And for Tabuk, he's going to be gone for what? Maybe weeks, a month, more than that. Imam Ali alayhi salam, the riwayat, Sunni and Shia show that he is shedding tears. He's crying because he's going to miss Rasulullah. So Rasulullah goes and tells him, "Oh Ali, are you not satisfied that you are to me as Harun was to Musa?" And then he puts a qualifier. He says, "Except that there will be no more prophets after me. إِلَّا أَنَّهُ لَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِي." So from our perspective, it is very clear that we don't have any more prophets left. Very quickly, one of our teachers went and mentioned that there's this one person hundreds of years ago. He started making claims of prophecy. I said, "Okay, well, what's your name?" He says, "La." The interesting name, La, in Arabic means no. He says, "Yeah, well, Rasulullah said that La Nabiya Ba'di." So La is the prophet after me. He said, "What kind of argument is this that you're a prophet named No, and there's no prophet?" What is this? Sallu ala Muhammad. Of course, the stakes are high, but it is real. And as we said in night number 1, don't make counterfeits of $500 bill, a $200 bill. Only make counterfeits of that which is real. So this is a very important and almost dire position that we need to get correct, because there have been many who started off within our school. And yet, because people brought convincing enough proofs, maybe they brought even miracles, they're no longer with us. So what is our criteria? First and foremost, a previous prophet has to have made mention of it, as we just saw in this example. What happens as soon as Sheath takes over? People are aware because Adam alayhi salam foretold that Sheath will be there. The same year that Adam alayhi salam dies, Nuh is born. And there are prophecies that Nuh will come. Previous prophets, even before and after Adam and before Nuh. You find that before Musa alayhi salam, there was a lot of buzz and whisper, not only from the Israelites, but also from the ancient Egyptians, that someone is about to come, someone who will come and challenge this Pharaoh. And when he came, they were ready. For other prophets, Dawood, Sulaiman, Isa alayhi salam had so many, prophecies that there's a Messiah coming, not the least of which was his own Nana, his own grandfather, Prophet Imran. Right? This surah that we have, surah number 3, Aly Imran, who is that named after? Named after one of our prophets named Prophet Imran. Prophet Imran, his successor was Nabi Zakaria, father of Yahya. Nabi Imran comes to the people at his time and says that my son will be a prophet. And so everybody, including his wife, is expecting a son. When she, however, is pregnant and she gives birth, what does the Quran say? She says, Ya Allah, I've given birth to a female. And the male is not like the female. I was expecting my prophetic husband decreed, and he, not decreed, but at least foretold. And so this is how also Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim answered the objection of Harun al-Rashid. He said, how do you, Banu Fatima, make the claim that you are from Rasulullah, that you are the sons of Rasulullah? How do you do this? You and I know that we Arabs, we take the lineage back through the father, not through the mother. Fine, you say that you are Musa ibn Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Baqir ibn Ali Zayn al-Abidin ibn Hussein al-Shahid ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. But Ali ibn Abi Talib is clearly not Rasulullah, and Ali is the son of Abu Talib. You are trying to go through Imam Hussein, his mother's side, Fatima, and say that Fatima is the daughter of Muhammad. He's like, how are you trying to make this work? Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam says, no, you can go through the mother, and you will go through the mother. That's how. He says, look at the ayah in Surah Al-An'am. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, amongst the dhurriya of Nuh and Ibrahim, you have this prophet, Ismail, Ishaq, etc., etc., and Zakaria and Yahya and Isa. Now, for someone like us who just reads through the Quran once a year in Shahr Ramadan, inshallah, even that much, we read through this ayah and we're like, okay, great, we got a lot of prophets. But for someone like Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, he sees Isa and he says, one of these is not like the other. How is he the descendant of either one, whichever one you want to take him to, Ibrahim or Nuh? How is he the descendant? He doesn't even have a father. So he says, you will go through the mother, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Isa alayhi salam through his lineage, through the mother. So therefore, it's okay for us to be taken also through our mother, Fatima Zahra, back to Rasulullah. So, just briefly, brothers and sisters, I want to take you through the ayat as well as the pesuchim of the Hebrew Bible and the verse, the one verse that I've chosen for today, from the New Testament. We find that Nabi Isa alayhi salam foretold our prophet, and this is mentioned in the Quran, specifically in Surah Saf, 61st chapter, ayah number 6, where we find the following. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمُبَشِّرٌ بِرَسُولٍ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ اسْمُهُ أَحْمَدٌ. That I bring glad tidings of a prophet who will come after me. His name is Ahmad. And in the New Testament, there has been debate surrounding Gospel of John, chapter number 14, verse number 16, as well as the Gospel of John, chapter number 16, verses 12 and 13. I'll start with the New Testament. What does it say over there? It says that I have many things to say unto you. You can't bear them right now. When I go, I will send this comfort, the spirit of truth, right? And in the Koine Greek, this is known as the Parakletos, right? Parakletos. This spirit of truth that so many times is used with the male pronoun. He will tell you this, he will do this, he will, etc., etc., etc. Yes, in the current Trinitarian translations that we have today of the New Testament, you will find the heading that this is the Holy Spirit being prophesied. Ask them, does God have a gender? No. But does the Holy Spirit have a gender? No. So then why is this the most male-centric verse of the entire New Testament? How did you make that into the Holy Spirit? It doesn't make sense. Not to mention, there are mentions of the Holy Spirit within the womb of Elizabeth when she is pregnant with Yahya alayhi salam. I thought that this Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, is going to come after Isa alayhi salam. This seems to be there even before Isa alayhi salam. So we find that in debates amongst the academic conversations that we have with New Testament scholars, as well as with pastors and preachers who are our friends, who are engaged in these friendly dialogues, that they don't really have an answer and they get to. Respecting those wishes, we will now go to the Hebrew Bible and the Pesuchim of what is known in the Christian world as the Old Testament. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You'll find that I opened with the ayah of Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 157. Yes? And I read just a portion of it. What did I read? I read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الذين يتبعون الرسول النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم في التوراة والإنجيل. This is, within the Mufassirin world of tafsir, this brought about a number of different theories. One from like Tabari, who is like probably the chief of the exegetes amongst Ahl Sunnah. What does he say? He says that, look, in the modern day Bible, we cannot find any mention of Muhammad, and so therefore there must be some kind of traits and characteristics, and therefore that must be what they were looking for. Respect that view. There were others who came and said that the current Bible, both the Hebrew Bible as well as the New Testament, have been changed from the original revelations that were given to Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam. And therefore, that's why we can't find it. We'll find that even Christians, such as the first century scholar Justin Martyr. Justin Martyr comes and says in his writings that look, the Jews changed their book. And what did they do? They specifically omitted from the Old Testament any reference to wood. W-O-O-D, wood. Why? Because this would have been too direct of a prophecy for the cross, for Isa. And therefore, the Jews tampered with their own books and they erased it. This was one of the Christian exegetes, Justin Martyr. He went and said this about the Old Testament and the Jews. And so similarly, you had Muslim exegetes who also came and said the same thing about the current day Bible. He said, well, the reason why we can't find any mention of Muhammad, the way how Quran is telling us in Surah As-Saf and Surah Al-A'raf, is because they must have changed it. Then you have, I resonate with the most, Fakhruddin al-Razi, one of the major exegetes of the Fakhruddin al-Razi comes and says, I don't really buy this, that the Jews who are very sincere in their faith and believe that this Torah is the word of God, I don't believe that they would have gone into their own books in spite of the Christians and changed their own books. They have too much respect for their own books, not to mention it is too widely transmitted by the point that Jesus comes. Remember, between Musa and Isa, there's at least 1300 to 1400 years. So you're telling me that all of the Jews around the world, all of the copies of their, Masoretic text or even the Bin Asher text, right? You're telling me that all of them were gone and changed? He says, I don't buy it. There must be something that we're missing. It must be translated wrong, and that's how he went and interpreted ayat like يحرفون الكلام من مواضعه, that this is not a tahrif an-nas, that this is not a tahrif of the actual words of the Bible, but this is tahrif al-ma'ani, that they are playing around with the meanings. They kept the original Hebrew and the Koine Greek, but they translated it. As I alluded to just a couple of minutes ago, their English translations show something else. And that's actually, brothers and sisters, modern day Muslim biblicists who go and learn and are certified in ancient Hebrew as well as Koine Greek have found a number of pesuchim. Pesuchim just is Hebrew for verses, right, of the Tanakh. They have found multiple instances where a prophecy was taken, translated through a Trinitarian lens, made to fit Jesus, but when you look at the actual Hebrew, it fits no one better than Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So let's look at a couple of these different pesuchim. First and foremost, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 18. This, I feel, anybody who has watched Ahmed Didat or his era of da'wah, spreaders like Zakir Naik, Shabir Ahmed, everybody knows this verse, right? But just for the sake of completion, Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 18 says, I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their own people. I will put my words in the mouth of the prophet who shall speak to them everything that I commanded. Anyone who does not heed the words that of the prophet that shall speak in my name, I myself will hold them accountable. So you look at who is the most similar prophet to Musa alayhi salam, and we don't have time to go into that. We find that it is none other Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The next one, and I want to keep the flow kind of going at the same pace, inshallah. The next one comes from Isaiah chapter 9, verse number 6. Okay? And I will read to you from the NRSV, which is the academic gold standard, which most New Testament scholars swear by this translation and version of the Bible. Okay? What does the NRSV say? Again, this is still a Trinitarian slant. You'll see the difference from a Muslim who translated straight from the Hebrew, as well as if you go and pick up a Jewish English Hebrew Bible, you'll see the differences. What does it say in verse 6 of chapter 9 of Isaiah? For a child has been born for us, a son given to us, Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This actually, when you go and look up any YouTube video, even up until today, just last night, before this majlis, I was looking up videos of what are the most popular prophecies that Christians like to go into Israel, speak Hebrew to current Jews, and say, do you know that this is in your current Hebrew Bible? These are prophecies of our Messiah, Jesus. They're trying to do conversion work, right? They will use this chapter 9, verse 6 of Isaiah as one of their strongest proof texts. Now look, son has been born, and authority rests on his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And they will also further make the claim, brothers and sisters, that within the Zionist state, these and other prophecies that refer to Jesus are not allowed to be read in the synagogue. Of course, the Jews will go and say, well, we don't read it with your translation, but we still read it, because the actual translation does not point to Jesus. It's pointing to someone who we still are waiting for until today. You look at the average Jew, they're still waiting for their Messiah. So, how would we translate the same verse from the original Hebrew, which you can just go and, you can order off Amazon, the Masoretic text. This is something that they will even, a 13, 14-year-old Jewish boy or girl, when they're having their bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, when they're trained to learn Hebrew, right? It's still easy to learn Hebrew. You can go and read this for yourself. How would we go and translate this from the actual Hebrew into English? Let's see. The actual English, the closer English would be, and this is being recorded, okay? I'm going on record. So I'm putting not only that Muslim translation, but also my own credibility for any Jewish audience that wants to take me up to task and look and refer this back to Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. In the Hebrew Bible, it would actually be verse 5. Test me. It's okay. I'm confident. I've seen it. I'm ready. For a child will be born for us. A son will be given to us. And the symbol of authority will be present upon his shoulder. Now, in the seerah of our prophet, aren't there many, including Salman al-Muhammadi, were looking for a sign, a symbol on the prophet's shoulder? Why do you think they were doing that? Because in the actual Hebrew, they were told for hundreds of years, look for it. There will be a seal. Right? This is literally called, the one that's on the prophet's back, it's called the Khatim al-Risala. It's on his shoulder. How many of you heard of this? A lot of us. And this is how the second half of that verse would be translated from Isaiah. And the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the eternal Father, will call his name the Prince of Peace. Meaning God will call his name the Prince of Peace. How did that initial Trinitarian slant translation, how did that one read? That one said, he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Why did they want to go and translate it this way? Because of Mighty God. But even then, isn't there a problem? Do they call Jesus the Father? Or do they call him the? So even within their theology, we have a problem. But they can't, because of the way how the grammar is structured, they can't go and play in the middle of the grammar. So what they did is the following. The vowel pointings in the current Masoretic text, the Hebrew Bible, which you can order off of Amazon for like $10, okay, is in the active voice. There's a subject, doer, and a direct object. And so it clearly should be read in this way, that God will call his name the Prince of Peace, not that he will be called God, Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. The next one is also in Isaiah. This one, however, is in Isaiah chapter 29, verse number 12. And what does this say? This one's going to be much more clear. And if it is given to him who cannot read, saying, read this, yuqra or qira, right, which is the exact Hebrew cognate of qira, right? He will say, I am not lettered. I cannot read. Does this fit anyone better than our prophet? I would argue no. The next one comes from Isaiah chapter 42, and this one will be a couple of different verses. Isaiah chapter 42, verses 1 through 7. Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations. He will not cry or lift up his voice even in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a dimly burning wick he will not quench. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not grow faint or be crushed until he has established justice in the earth. Verse 5, they say, thus says God your Lord, created the heavens and the earth. And then he says, in verse number 7, he will come to open the eyes that are blind, to bring out the prisoners from the dungeon, from the prisons, those who sit in darkness, right? And he says, I have given you, meaning to this servant, I've given you as a covenant to the nations, to the Gentiles, meaning he's not going to be sent to the Israelites. Why do you think, brothers and sisters, that there was a strong Jewish community who decided to move to Medina? Because they were waiting this Arab prophet. Now, of course, they later on started to teach. It could also be from one of us. And this is, of course, why they eventually, in the Quran, it says, decided to reject our prophet because he wasn't from among them. Let's read a little bit further in this same chapter. In verse number 11, we read, let the desert and its towns lift up their voice. The villages that Kedar inhabits. Kedar is one of the descendants, direct descendants of Ismail alayhi salam. Kedar eventually became known as the tribe. Look at the genealogy of Rasulullah. Where does he come from? And finally, from this passage in Isaiah chapter 42, we'll read verse number 17. What does it say? They shall be turned back and utterly put to shame those who trust in carved images, who say to cast images, you are our God. Once this servant has come, idols and idolaters will be embarrassed. And actually, when a Muslim translates from the actual Hebrew, not just they will be embarrassed, it also means that those idols will be cast down and broken. Tell me, is this not exactly what our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did in the Fath of Mecca? When he came to the Kaaba and he went and destroyed, with the help of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib والسلام, each and every single idol in the Kaaba. Exactly Rasulullah. So when the Jews were there living in Medina, they knew exactly who they were waiting for. And this is why, brothers and sisters, coming now to the Quran, what does the Quran say in Surah An'am, ayah number 20? الَّذِينَ بَيْنَهُمُ الْكِتَابِ يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. The ones who have been given the book, they know this messenger better than they know their own son. Know in the back of your own hand. You have so many prophecies of this prophet coming. When you have been taught in synagogue every single Shabbat, every single Saturday, Messiah is coming, Messiah is coming, Messiah is coming. In fact, every single time that they would side with the Aus or the Khazraj within Medina, and the losing side, because the Jews also would go and choose different tribes. So the tribes that from the Jews that were losing, what does verse number 89 of Surah Al-Baqarah come and say? It says, يَسْتَفْتِحُونَ. They would go and start to brag. You just wait. Our Messiah is coming. Our messenger who's coming in these lands, he's soon going to come. Then we'll beat you all. Does that sound similar? And we lose, we're like, yeah. When our Mahdi comes, we'll show you. They also used to do the same thing. The question is, when he came, what did they do? The question to us is, when our Imam comes, he do. So this was all number one. Number two, miracles. Anybody who says that I am a prophet have to come with miracles. If they don't come with miracles, anybody can go and make the claim of prophethood. Also, along with those miracles, needs to come the claim of. Can't just be doing magic tricks, or have something cool going on for you, and not even claiming to be a prophet. Later on, other people come and ascribe prophecy to you. That's not how it works. That person who is bringing proofs of prophethood has to go and also say, I am a prophet. Along with, of course, what we just mentioned, the previous prophets have to mention. I don't know what's the difference between a magician and a prophet. Magic fades. Magic cannot continue. And this is something that the magicians at the time of Musa knew. This is also something that at the time of Rasulullah they knew. And this is why, brothers and sisters, these miracles, they cannot be replicated by anyone. The splitting of the sea, the bringing of the camel from the mountain, the, for example, raising of the dead by Isa alayhi salam. None of these things have been replicated, nor can they be. You ask me, can modern medicine ever get to a point where it will ever revive the dead? No, that's something that Quran assures us. That's only something that Allah. How did Prophet Isa alayhi salam do it? Bi-idhnillah. And finally, number 3, brothers and sisters, the sign of a prophet is that he never. There are many people who are reformers, people who have ideas, people who came into society and they wanted to go and reform and bring their ideas. Eventually, if they saw no traction, they would give up. And we've seen this even within our own lifetimes. People who were predicting 2012 would be the end. People who were predicting the rapture. Eventually, once that date came, what did they do? They sank into silence and oblivion. Eventually, one day we heard about their death, and then that was the end of it. Whereas with the prophet, have we ever heard of any prophet that gave up? No matter how belligerently their people rejected them, do you ever find them giving up? Because at the end of the day, Allah is telling them, you have a job. You have a job. Nuh alayhi salam, in the final time that he's mentioned sequence-wise in the Quran, which is Surah An-Nuh, also seems to be the final mention before the flood. Go and preach to your people. It seems Allah knows Nuh wants to stay with me. Nuh wants to be in the company of Allah. He doesn't want to be in the company of these people who, our hadith, and even in the Quran, he was beaten up. How old is Prophet Nuh? In the thousands. And young people are coming and beating him up. They're defecating in the ark. He has to come and clean up after them. When he wakes up from consciousness, we read his du'as in surahs like Surah Hud. He goes and prays against them. These prophets don't give up. And likewise, brothers and sisters, tomorrow, inshallah, when we get to Imama, we'll see what even is the need for Imams if we have prophets. That'll be tomorrow. But look at Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Precursor to Imam Hussein's Karbala is Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, by his own Shia, was called pejorative nicknames like Ya Ar al-Mu'mineen, oh embarrassment of the Muslims. These are people who claim to be Shia, and they are saying in the face of their Imam, you embarrassment of the Muslims. May God save us from ever having that jur'ah to ever talk to our elders in the community, our parents, our grandparents in such a manner. Let alone the family of Rasulullah. You think that this didn't break his heart? And yet, in his final moments, even when he is throwing up his liver, yes, the riwayat, the narrations say that he is coughing up so much blood that even pieces of his liver, this is how strong the Roman poison was, that Muawiyah had personally requested be given to Imam al-Hasan. This is how much he couldn't stand Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hasan, even if he is coughing up pieces of his liver, he goes and tells his brother Imam Hussein, please lie me down. He says, I don't want Zainab to see what I've coughed up, so cover up the bowl. Now, those of us who have children, we know that our young kids like to crawl up on our chests. And this is exactly how Qasim, when he is 1.5 years old, wants to be on his father, probably for the last few moments that he has with his father. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam sees that Ramla, the mother of Qasim, is saying to Qasim and bringing him off of the chest of Imam al-Hasan. She says, look, my son, there's a lot of pain on your father's chest right now. Right now is not the moment to be on your father's chest and to add to that pain. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam says, Ramla, leave him. I want to spend a few more moments with my son before I leave. I say ala lisan al-hal, maybe through a poet who's eulogized this moment, that maybe Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, through this baby that is on his chest in these moments, is remembering the afternoon of Ashura when there will be another chest. And that chest will not have a head. But there will be many kids who want to come and sleep one last time on that chest before they're taken away to Sham. On a night like Sham al-Ghariban, there are a few daughters like Ruqayya, like Sukaina, who are trying to figure out which chest is my father's, because at this point they've taken all of the heads off of the bodies. And she comes and says, Baba, I've never slept a night without being on your chest. Maybe this is what Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam is thinking about. Or maybe he's thinking about the ghurbat of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam when he is alone on the 10th of Muḥarram. He says to Ramla in these final moments that when my brother is alone, make sure that you send my son Qasim. And he says, I want to make sure that he is there representing me. So he goes and writes a letter, and he puts this as a ta'weez on the arm of this baby, of this 1.5-year-old Qasim ibn Hassan. Says, Ramla, when the moment is right, when Qasim is in great tragedy, when he is in great trouble, tell him to open this letter from me. Until then, tell him it is not time. And this is the final words that I will have. I'm not going to take too much of your time, brothers and sisters. Time is short. We get to the night before Ashura. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is reading the list that this person will be martyred, and this person will be martyred, and this person will be martyred. Qasim says, Chacha, I don't hear my name. Am I going to be martyred? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says to Qasim, how do you see death, O Qasim? Remember, Qasim does not have a biological father now to go and raise him, so Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam raises him. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam even will call him Ya Bunay, and he will even go and call Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in these dire moments, Ya Abata, oh my dear father. In the precluding moments, he goes and calls him uncle. But in these moments where he wants to try to tug at his heartstrings, he will even call him. He says, oh my uncle, if it is death, dying in your defense, then death to me is sweeter than honey. Allahu Akbar. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam tells Qasim, he says, Qasim, not only is your name in this list, that young infant, Ali al-Asghar, his name is also on this list. Allahu Akbar. Let's now forward. Ali al-Akbar has now gone. He has become martyred. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam has already said the words, I don't want to live after you. We'll come to Ali al-Akbar in the following nights. But tonight is the night of Qasim. Qasim comes and says, my uncle, I want to go and defend you. But he keeps on saying, but you are the exact replica of my brother, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Every time I want to do the ziyarah of my brother, Imam al-Hasan, we are no longer in Medina. We are no longer in Baqiyah. Every time I want to go and do ziyarah of my brother, I just have to take a look at you. I grew up with my brother Hassan. You are the spitting image, as we would say today, of your father, Hassan alayhi salam. Please don't go. Yesterday, you narrated the loss of the Shabih of Zainab, Muhammad, that you remind me too much of Zainab. I'll tell you this, brothers and sisters, that on that fateful afternoon of Karbala, of Ashura, each and every single one of Ahl al-Kisa had someone there to represent. Go through the names with me. Ali al-Akbar, they kept on saying that he looks exactly like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That we never saw someone with the face as bright as Ali al-Akbar ever since the death of Rasulullah. Whenever we wanted to remember Rasulullah, we would look at Ali al-Akbar. Even Banu Hashim, when they wanted to remember their grandfather Rasulullah, they would look at Ali al-Akbar. What did the enemies do? They sent him back with a spear in his back. This is how they treat one who looks exactly like Rasulullah. When it came to the lookalike of Ali ibn Abi Talib, when it came to the representative of Ali ibn Abi Talib, who did Imam Ali alayhi salam send? He sent Abbas. He sent that lion who he hand-trained. How did they treat him? They treated him after the arrows in the eye. We'll get to. I know there are many of you who keep special faith in Abbas. After the arrow to the water pouch, after the arrow to the eye, after the spear in his back, they treated him with an iron bar, breaking open his skull. This is how they treated Ali on the afternoon of Karbala. When it came to Fatima al-Zahra, there was Zainab. And she opens up those buttons of Imam Hussein alayhi salam before he leaves, and she says, I have one final wasiyah of our mother Fatima. Mahlan mahlan yabna Zahra. Rasulullah had his Shabi. Ali ibn Abi Talib had his Shabi. Fatima al-Zahra had his Shabi. Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself is there. That leaves Imam al-Hasan. Who did Imam Hassan alayhi salam send? Who was his lookalike? Qasim. He says, I can't send you. You look too much like my brother. He says, please, my father wanted me to go. He opens up this letter. What does the letter say? I want to be brief. He says, oh, my son, Ya Bunay Qasim, if you see my brother Hussein, Ghariban, Atshana, Wahida, then make sure that you are not scared for your own life. Sacrifice your life readily for Imam Hussein. Now he comes and jubilantly says to his uncle, Uncle, you cannot stop me anymore. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I almost feel the fear. These are my final few moments that I will have with my Qasim. What does he have? He says, I have a letter from my father. Now you cannot stop me. Why? Because Imam Hassan is still hujjah upon Imam Hussein. He's still his Mawla. What does he see? He sees the letter. He reads it. He kisses it. And he says towards Medina, he says, my brother, you still haven't forgotten me in my moment of need. You haven't forgotten me in my moment of loneliness. He says, go, Qasim. I will prepare you and I will put you on the horse. Qasim says, I'm 13 years old, uncle. The saddle is not helping me. Leave the saddle. So there's no real saddle, but whatever is makeshift, his sandals, while he's in the battle, his sandals start to get caught in the stirrup. One of the enemies of Allah says, look how beautiful this boy's head is. I want to be the one who presents it to Yazid. So Umar bin Sa'd says, yes, go, kill him. He says, but I have killed 1,000 Arabs. It's hand-to-hand combat. No, my youngest, I have 7 sons. My youngest will go and take him on. Qasim fights him. He kills him. The second youngest, the third youngest, the fourth youngest, the fifth youngest, the fifth, the sixth. The eldest goes and Qasim finishes them all off. When the father is now angry and he says, who is this young man who has taken out all of my nasl? I will go and take out him and I will go and make sure that his mother and his Hussein weep over him. He says, I will go and fight him myself. But it seems Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he saw him, he says, Ya Allah, my Qasim is 12, 13 years old. This man has killed 1,000 Arabs. Please have mercy on my Qasim. Even him, Qasim is able to go and slay. And with each kill, he keeps on saying, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. I won't recite even the poetry that Qasim says because my time is up. Just hear these words from me. That Umar ibn Sa'd now says, let the whole entire army be unleashed on Qasim. At this point is when the sandals start to get caught. And he, in a moment of ignorance, in ghafla, the army is able to go and hit him in the back of the head. At this moment, he goes and says, Chacha, My Imam Hussein, come to my assistance, come help me. I don't have anyone left. I've been surrounded. Imam Hussein alayhi salam comes, disperses the army, comes, but by that time, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Qasim is gone. His mother, when she sees the body, says, how I wish I could have seen the days where I was tying your turban for your marriage. Now I see that I have to go and bury you in a grave. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Matame Hussein, Ya Hussein,